Hi, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Headlines Israel with Tzvi Harpaz. And today we're going to talk about why Israel that you think you know is so different than the Israel that I know. So let's start diving into this right now. And the Israel that I know is very different from the Israel people hear about in the news. People confuse a lot of information with understanding. They get their input from social media. They see short video clips. I talked to a whole bunch of teenagers. The only source of news that they get is TikTok. And TikTok is problematic, as are all the other social medias, because it's enough that you have a bot or people that retweet and repost and share what you just posted for it to go viral. And once it goes viral, people think that because the numbers are high, it must be absolutely true. And the same thing is about the news. News are not meant to inform you. They are meant to focus on a single event that is or was an ongoing, isolated event. And you never see anything that happened before, and for the most part, of what happens after that specific event. That means that when you focus a camera on something, everything around it is out of focus, and therefore you get a distorted understanding. Now, people hear things that are said with conviction and immediately assume that they are facts. For the most part, they are not. And the deeper you go into Israel, the less simplistic everything becomes. People may know facts, but still not understand the reality. And people form opinions very, very quickly. And the fact is, the very sad fact, that most of the people commenting on Israel have never visited, and they themselves don't have a full understanding. They never walked the streets, never spoke to ordinary Israelis, never experienced the complexity firsthand. So, all in all, you'll never hear on the news Israel had a perfectly quiet day, although there are many quiet days, but quiet does not sell. You need to be sensational. You need to be talking about a catastrophe, a disaster. Good news don't make money. And the more people watch, the more confused they become. There are contradictory reports. Uh, and it's to be understood. I mean, if you were to take my hand right now and I would be pointing it at you, you would see the same hand that I am seeing. You'd see the same five fingers stretched out, but your perspective, your angle is very different. You will not be seeing the the lines on the palm of my hand, while I am seeing, I mean, you'll be seeing that while I am seeing the veins and the backside of my hand. And still, we're talking about the same hand. And in fact, it is said that when two Jews get together, you always have five opinions. So we're talking about the same reality, but different viewpoints. And you have different channels. Each one airs their reality. Now, you have to understand that each person that is reporting something has an agenda. And it's amazing because Israel is one of the most covered places in the world, yet one of the least understood. And there's a global obsession with Israel, which is a tiny little country, smaller than New Jersey, not much, but still smaller. And it receives enormous global attention. The thing is that most people can't even locate Israel on a map, yet they speak about it with such certainty and authority as if they were native to that place. And that, my friends, is what causes a lot of the dissonance between how things are reported, how they are perceived, and what really happens. So basically, what I'm telling you is I'm a living testimonial to what's going on in Israel. I've been guiding for more than 36 years on the ground, guiding pastors, tourists, business people, world leaders, among them presidents, kings, prime ministers, watching people arrive with different assumptions and leave transformed. And they understand all of a sudden that there's regular Israelis living a regular life, and all that exists between the headlines. The news focus on isolated moments, but life is continuous. The camera captures the explosion, not the life around it. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is when they try to analyze Israel like any other normal country. But Israel, for the most part, by most people, is not experienced like a normal country because everything here is layered and intertwined. Excuse me. We have geography, history, religion, memory, politics, identity, survival, all cohabiting, coexisting at the same time. And without understanding that, it is very, very difficult to almost impossible to try to understand why people react the way they do. Now, Israel's geography is tiny, really, really tiny. And people hear about the terror attacks, about the different rockets being launched at Israel, drone attack. You have to understand that in the bordering communities to Gaza or to Lebanon, for example, sometimes you hear the boom before the siren is activated, before you get alerted. And when you do get alerted, it's sometimes, at best 15 seconds. Now, I don't know when was the last time that you ran 15 seconds dash, but you were usually prepared for it and could probably make, about 200 feet in those 15 seconds. But that 15 seconds is not enough. When you have a siren and you have to turn off the fire or the stove and pick up your kid and gather the dog and run into the shelter and close the door. So at best, what you could do is wherever you are, try to get cover as best as you can. Lay down, cover your head, protecting it, and really hope for the best. Distances here completely change the daily life and the security reality. I mean, it's not just a tiny little stretch on a map. It's real distances. And everything here is very, very compact. And there's yet another issue because people think, well, history in Israel is history just like it is everywhere else around the world. But in Israel, it is not just history, it is still ongoing, it is still alive, because in addition to the biblical history, there's modern wars and terrorism and family memory and Holocaust memory that is all still present in the daily life of everybody or most everybody that lives in this country. In many countries, history is studied in books. Here, you actually live history. In addition to that, faith also plays a major role, especially for Christians that visit Israel. And Christians sometimes have studied the Bible for years. They've studied it practically all their lives. But everything is two-dimensional, black and white. Then they arrive to Jerusalem, to the Galilee, to the Judean desert, and something all of a sudden changes emotionally. The stories stop feeling abstract. They become very, very, very real. And then there's the crown of the jewel, Jerusalem, which absolutely changes people. I've seen it happening over 36 years of guiding. People arrive here thinking they're visiting just another city. Then all of a sudden, wham! It's like they're completely overwhelmed with the emotional weight of thousands of years sitting in just one place. And in fact, there's even something that is called the Jerusalem syndrome. When people come here, especially from abroad, and because of the emotional weight associated with Jerusalem, something in their mind snaps. And that syndrome is called the Jerusalem syndrome. Look it up. So this land is not only political, it is emotional, historical, spiritual for billions of people worldwide. Many outsiders just try to simplify Israel because, they're imagining, hey, let's take a parallel place, same size, same amount of people roughly. How complicated can it be? But of course, that is not the case. And these people, they want quick answers, simple narratives, very, very clear. Heroes, villains, in a very one-sided answer. They want a definite yes or no, black or white. They do not want to deal with any of the gray in between. But the deeper you go into Israel, the harder it becomes to hold simplistic opinions, because reality here is human, and human reality is always, always more complicated than just headlines. The thing is that most people outside of Israel are not really seeing Israelis as they really are. They are seeing headlines. They're seeing the symbols, the conflicts, the governments, the armies. But Israel is made up of ordinary people, people that raise their family. They wake up in the morning, they send their kids to school, they go to work, they worry constantly about money, especially, in these times because economy is affected because of the ongoing conflict. They worry about everyday things. And at the same time, there's an additional tension, additional uncertainty. There's a very difficult security reality that we have to face. and most outsiders cannot fully understand unless they experience it firsthand. So one of the biggest mistakes which people naturally make is reducing everything into simple categories. I mean, they want to have a very clear understanding who is the good guys, the bad guys, which is the right side, which is the wrong side. But there's 50 shades of gray between the black and white. And social media trains people to think in slogans. In fact, the format is get your message in 1 minute or 3 minutes. Anything you say beyond that is not going to be displayed. So you say only very hard things, very fast talking, make it sound very convincing. And of course, that is what causes the misconception that people understand. At the same time, reality does not fit slogans. Multiple things can be true at the same time. Multiple people could carry pain at the same time. The fact that I'm hurting does not mean that somebody else is not hurting also. The fact that I am considered the strong military does not mean I'm not vulnerable. The fact that people worry about money does not detract one bit from the fact that I worry about my kids that are now in their reserves or in the active duty. And the pace of life here is very, very fast moving. You could go to sleep the 6th of October, thinking everything is calm and celebrating a holiday, and wake up to the very harsh reality of the 7th of October, which changes everything. So the deeper you go into this region, the harder it becomes to maintain simplistic opinions. I came to realize that people often analyze Israel through politics or military strategy, but fear, memory, trauma, survival, identity, history, all those things shape how people think here. The Holocaust memory is a personal thing for many families. There's countless families that are third and second generation survivors of Holocaust. Now, we're talking big numbers, and wars are not distant stories. Most people in Israel know someone that was somehow affected by terrorism or war, or somebody that was killed or kidnapped or injured, you name it. I mean, and when outsiders ignores that, the emotional reality, when they take out the human factor and the emotion, they misunderstand why Israelis react the way that they do. And it's not about agreement. We don't have to all agree. We don't have to be aligned politically. Not at all. On the contrary. But without the human layer, you cannot fully understand what makes Israel tick. Now, one of the most fascinating things that I've witnessed over the years is what happens when people actually come to Israel. And the people arrive, some with very strong opinions and clear narratives and fixed ideas. Some of them are supportive, some are critical, some are nervous, some are afraid. But there isn't one person that doesn't come with assumptions and preconditioning thoughts. And something then changes once they begin to experience the country, to actually walk the streets, interact with the people, and they all of a sudden get input from real sources instead of just consuming information about the country. And people walk through the streets of Jerusalem and they speak to ordinary Israelis. They hear stories, and they meet Jews and Christians and Muslims and Druze, and suddenly, the reality becomes human instead of just ideological, instead of just being political. Not because somebody convinced them politically, but because direct human encounters changes the understanding. And I've seen people discover warmth and hospitality and spirituality, complexity, basically humanity. And, some could be convinced of that. Some could be still opposed. But I don't know of one person that leaves this country unchanged somehow. The change that happens only once people physically experience Israel. And something just shifts internally. They experience the geography, the atmosphere, the emotion, the human stories. Today, people form opinions from screens, from clips, from algorithms. I mean, this is what influences the way we are, from the distance, from afar. But real understanding usually happens through an encounter. And you do not truly understand Israel from far away. You understand it by being here, by listening, by walking, and by asking questions. And most of all, allowing yourself to experience the complexity instead of running away from it. Now, I believe that this conversation is no longer only about Israel, because Israel exposes a reality that is happening in the entire modern world. And people today are overloaded with information, but on the other hand, starving for real understanding. I mean, we're constantly consuming endless clips and headlines and reactions, opinions, and everything is expected to be immediate. We have become so used to having everything right there and then. And now, with the fact that people have a camera in their hand and all the social media in their hand, and of course, everything is expected to be now, now, now. So, very few people actually slow down enough to understand the complexity, because social media trained us to react emotionally before really thinking deeply. And that is a big problem, a very big problem that we have to deal with. And because of immediate information available to us, we have immediate opinions and immediate judgment and immediate outrage. But real understanding takes time. It takes listening, it takes humility, it takes patience. And Israel exposes this challenge more than any other place in the world, because Israel forces people to actually deal and confront the complexity, because it's like all in one combined. We have history and identity and trauma and faith and survival and emotion and memory and politics, of course, and all exist in one place, all interlaced in one little country. So in reality, human beings actually and naturally prefer simple stories. I mean, they want heroes and villains, they want a certainty and easy answers. But maturity actually means accepting that reality is layered. And In all honesty, from what I have seen in 36 years of guiding people, the people who grow most in Israel are not usually the ones who arrive with all the answers, but the people who arrive curious, humble, open minded. And once you encounter people face to face, it becomes a lot harder to dehumanize them and demonize them. And that's when the real understanding begins. And when we move beyond slogans and encounter human beings, that is when understanding a country starts happening. So, after all these years of guiding people through Israel and listening to thousands of conversations, watching people arrive with assumptions and leave with different perspectives, I've come to one simple conclusion, and that is that Israel cannot be understood from a distance. You don't understand it through the headlines or through the clips or through arguments online, be they as convincing as they are, because Israel is not just information, it is an experience. And Israel is a place where history feels alive, where beauty and pain exist side by side, and where spirituality and fear and hope and trauma and faith and humanity all merge in one place. And the modern world tries to understand people without encountering them. And we tend to be very judgeful from a distance. We do everything from afar. We simplify things. We form opinions from a distance. But distance removes humanity. So coming to Israel actually changes people dramatically because all of a sudden the conflict becomes human and the stories become human and the people become human. And the second something becomes human, when there's a face to it, it becomes a lot harder to reduce it into slogans. It becomes a lot harder to demonize and dehumanize it. And the world needs a lot less shouting and less certainty and a lot more listening and curiosity. So, bottom line is be very careful believing you fully understand complex realities through fragments of information. Some places are not meant to be understood only through information. Some places must be experienced, and Israel is definitely one of them. You need to be here to understand this place. I wish I could have had a penny for every time that people asked me after so many years, why is it that I still feel so passionate about bringing people to Israel, about showing them all these things and have them experience the land? And to tell you the truth, it's because I've seen what happens when people stop viewing Israel only through ideology and they start encountering it through different glasses. They just look at it, uh, understanding a lot more. And over the course of the years, I've watched people reconnect to their faith, ball up crying in Jerusalem or in other places, arrive skeptical and leave, thoughtful and insightful. And I've watched human encounter change people. And this is what actually keeps me going. And I feel honored to share it. It is a very, very big thing. And I really believe in what I'm doing. and that I'm doing good and managing to do all this good despite all the noise, the division, and the arguments online. And I still believe that encountering the locals over here has the power to change people. It will not make them perfect. It will not be instant, but it will be a genuine and honest change. And that is also why I wanted to start this podcast, not to convince people what to think, but to create a space where we could slow down, ask questions, explore complexity, and see Israel through different glasses. So, friends, I really want to thank you for joining me for this conversation. It's more than a conversation for me. And if this resonated with you, I sincerely hope you continue this journey with me because there is still so much more to explore, not only about Israel, but about the people, stories, history, and faith. Yeah, faith is something that we're going to be dealing a lot with over here. So stay tuned for Behind the Headlines, Israel with Tzvi Harpaz.